Alright guys, so I'm out here today on this real windy day. I don't know if you can see how it's blowing the trees. It's a real windy day out here, but I wanted to do some changes to the Brocock Ghost. You've seen me do a couple of videos already with it being very low power. I had the reg off the top of my head, maybe at 100 bar. It was spitting out the 13.4 grain pellets at about 762 feet per second, and that was able to harvest 4-foot iguanas, and I'll put a picture as well, some rock chucks, some decent sized rock chucks that it ranged from 20 to 50 yards. So with a 18 foot-pound gun, I was able to, get that kind of quarry. But with this whole movement of slugs and it being a 177, never shot 177 slugs before, I thought, well, let's do some testing, especially in a wind situation like this. Let's compare it to a 177 pellet versus a slug. They're still 13 grain. Let's start with the first group. So I was aiming at these targets. Want to make sure you guys understand what I got going. So targets 1, targets 2, and targets 3. Okay, so let's start with the first one. I had the power wheel at 17, shooting the 13.4 grain day state pellets versus the 13 grain Zan pellets. Okay, so I'm aiming here, and in this wind, it blew it right there, and you can see the group size. That's a really good group size in my opinion, due to the wind. And again, this is hunting accuracy, not competition accuracy. Okay, so keep that in mind. I'm more of a hunter, not necessarily a competitive shooter. So that's that size there, going there, and you can see maybe ½ an inch wind drift difference there. Okay, then and this is 5-shot groups. All of these groups are 5-shot groups. Okay, so aimed here, and this is where it blew the pellets, and this is where it blew the Zan slugs. Again, a slight advantage, kind of messed up the group, opened it up a little bit there. And then group 3, the pellets versus the slugs. Okay, and there's gust of wind here, guys. So on over to this group. Power wheel set at 15. It was real sporadic. I didn't even mess with the slugs, wasn't worth the time. But take a look at power wheel, the power wheel set to 13. I'm aiming here, and here's a slug. Now there was a very unique deviation there at 817 feet per second when the rest of them were about 809. And you could see with that one shot there, really jumped it up. But besides that, that's a real nice group there. Versus the 13 grain pellets, again aiming here, you could see the wind drift. Okay, group number 2, still kind of opened it up. There's my finger there. Still the pellet. For it being a 65-yard group, I don't think that's terribly bad. Okay, still has a little advantage. And then group 3, these are 5-shot groups again. Still the slug has a slight advantage out to 65 yards in regards to the wind drift. Another adjustment I did on the power wheel, and I did quite a few others, not worthy of showing you guys, but since we're talking about this target here, I'm showing you. So power wheel set to 11, aiming here, got this group, aiming here, got this group, and you could see a gust of wind push that one out there. Aiming here, got this group. Wasn't worthy to put slugs on that power wheel, so that's where we're at. Well, before I forget, this barrel, I gave it a deep clean as soon as I was done with those groups, just to see if I can tighten those groups. Prior to me cleaning the barrel, I probably shot it maybe 500-600 times with a combination of slugs and pellets. So I thought, maybe I can tighten those groups with a clean barrel. So I did clean the barrel, and before I go out hunting, I'll probably put maybe 50 pellets through it, just to season the barrel, and then go out and shoot. And you'll see some of the equipment that I use. I'll post it right now so you could see what I'm using. In regards to the crawny, I'm using the Garmin Zero C1 Pro. Fantastic crawny. It's worked real well for me. I highly recommend it. So that's what I'm using. Let's look at the some hunting. These are all 5 group shots. I was aiming here, and that's 5 shots. I was aiming here, 5 shots. I was aiming here, and 5 shots. Now let's go hunting. So let's go get our quarry. The first one we're gonna get is the one that I shot at about 55 yards, I believe it was. It was the one that I grazed his head, or the back of his head, and then I did end up shooting him. I don't know exactly where I hit, but we saw that he hunkered down, and as he hunkered down, I took a shot in the body, in the vitals. And so let's go check it out. There he is. Just a little bit of blood there. No blood trail compared to headshots. So I'm curious as to where I actually hit him. You could kind of tell the graze there, I guess. This is a small rock chuck. I don't see an entrance or exit, so I'm curious. Oh, there's a shot there. So I'm curious exactly what happened. So I hit this rock chuck twice. The first one was a poor headshot. It entered his jaw and exited his neck. It was a pass through, so I couldn't recover that. But when I opened up this rock chuck, I saw that slug actually cut his neck arteries, so he would have bled to death. But at the time, I didn't know it, so I followed up with a quartering away vital shot, and that is what I want to focus on. That 177 slug expanded in a 3-pound rock chuck into a .315, so larger than a .30 caliber pellet or slug. in his chest cavity. That is amazing. On top of that, there was no pass-through. That slug was fully plastered on the exiting side. That is impressive. Something else worth noting is even though this guy got his neck arteries severed and was shot in the chest, he was able to run 3 yards before he expired. Okay, this second shot was at 75 yards. And you will see the difference between a head shot and body shots. So, another small rock chuck, but... Now I apologize I didn't get that shot on video. I was having technical difficulties with the trigger camera. But this guy was shot at 70, I think it was 75 yards. It was a head shot. It penetrated 2 inches at 75 yards. Was there expansion? Yes, from a 177 to a 203, and it was lodged in its shoulder. So if its shoulder wasn't positioned that way, it would have been a full pass through, but it was lodged in there and it did get expansion. Now with this headshot, did he drop? Absolutely not. He rolled around and I measured the distance from where I hit him to where I found him. He traveled about, rolling around, traveled about 3 yards. Okay, now let's pick up the first one that I hit. This one was at 70 yards. Should be, you saw him flicker his tail. There's no blow. There he is. There isn't any blood, but he lays right there. All right, so let's grab him. This one feels a lot heftier. Oh yeah, he's a good size. And you could see it was a headshot, 70 yards. Right there. Curious if the slug's still there. But I do collect the critters. I don't like leaving the bodies on the properties that I go shoot at, so I do my best to collect them. And here's a size difference to compare an adult versus juveniles there. Now, upon dissecting this hefty dude, come to find out it wasn't a headshot. I did graze his cranium, but that's not what put him down. What put him down was that I completely severed his spine, actually exploded it. It was as if a grenade went off on his neck. Did the slug expand? Yes, it did. Did he travel some? Did he just drop on his tracks? No, he traveled a yard, even though his neck was completely severed. He did flinch a little bit and found his way into that crevice backwards, but did travel some. All right, we also had some shots right over here, right behind that pile right there. I took 2 shots. The first one was a head shot, 55 yards. Both of them were 55 yards. But the way he ducked down, wasn't sure if I hit him. I didn't see tail flicker or anything, so we'll go check that area out. I wasn't able to recover the slug on this critter because at 55 yards, weighing in at 3.6 pounds, I did get a pass through. So it did travel an inch before it left its cranium, but there was no recovery. And did the critter travel? Yes, it did. It traveled about a yard. So what I find interesting is how come in certain critters and in certain situations, a headshot can leave them jumping all over, scrambling all over the place, and then sometimes it just drops. Sometimes they have a very small travel time, but it just fascinates me, and I don't have an answer for that. The second one was where I was filming with my phone, and there was two that were playing together, and I aimed for the larger one, body shot. I wanted to see if it was gonna be lethal at 55 yards, shooting the Zan 13 grain. You saw on the camera that he got hit and walked off. I would have had follow-up shots, but that was the last slug in the magazine, so I didn't have any more shots, so I quickly was loading as he walked off. So curious to see what we're gonna find. So let's head on over. Okay, and there is one there. So that must have been the headshot one. And I don't see any blood, but we know he walked down there. You saw it on camera. And must have, there really isn't a crevice for him to walk through there. Oh, I found him. And there he is. And that's a large one. So on a body shot, he did walk off, and I'd say about 10 yards is what he walked. No blood trail, but he's right there. All right, so this is the one that interested me the most. This is a slightly under 7-pound critter, shot at 55 yards. The penetration this 177 slug got was 5 inches. Entered the chest, fully passed through the chest, and we were lucky his back arm was positioned in a way that the slug got lodged in his arm, and we were able to recover the slug and see if it expanded or not, in which it absolutely did. It almost disintegrated the slug there. But here's something interesting. If we didn't take the time to go looking for this critter and dissect it and find out, if you were to just be a spectator watching that shot, you most likely would walk away and say a 177 vital shot is not ethical. That critter, you hurt the critter and he got away scot-free. Come to find out, he didn't. He was a dead man walking, did walk 10 yards, but it was a lethal shot. And we were able to get expansion on that slug. So interesting results I wanted to share with you guys, and you guys be the judge for yourselves. All right, and that about wraps up today's video. I know it was long. We covered a lot of information. We went from accuracy in the wind. We talked about power levels and speed. We compared them to slugs, and we saw slugs in action. And we were able to figure out whether or not these slugs expanded at these velocities. So it was a lot of information that we covered. Very valuable information for me. I hope it was for you. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and these types of videos, because I'd like to continue doing them for you as we continue to grow in our knowledge of hunting with air guns and trying to be our best as ethical hunters. So until next time, see you guys, and thanks for watching.